You're listening to Head to Head, a Star Wars podcast. Two fans, two generations, all things Star Wars begins now.
All right, well, hello, everybody. I'm Eric Vansel.
And I'm Daryl Sanders.
And we're your hosts for the show on a very, very surprising Labor Day weekend show. We're never able to do this. In fact, we didn't even know we were doing it until maybe 5 or 6 hours ago. Because, I mean, some reason, schedules are such. I mean, I probably could have in the past. It's just usually I'm just so out of it that by the time I'm
Right.
done working, the whole day or whatever, I'm just like, okay, I can't do it. But hey, we're here. It's like really late at night. So I don't know how many live people we're gonna get tonight. I know that
Ted Adam Green.
Yeah, Ted basically chatted something in which disappeared on me actually. Okay. Well, he chatted in earlier. And he was just basically saying that he wasn't probably gonna be able to watch it live, obviously. But you know what? Doesn't matter. This is why we always tell you guys when you subscribe, you got to hit that notification bell because you never really know when we're going to be able to go live. But this should actually be an interesting show. I'm glad we were able to do this because when Universal was chatting with us last week, we actually were talking about some of the projects and some things that were being discussed. And we got a little sidetracked, but we started talking about other projects. And I think the Starfighter project was one of the ones he brought up. And in fact, he did chat in, or he didn't chat in, he commented after the fact this whole thing about, how he enjoyed the discussion. And then there's like a lot. If you guys want, you can go into the comment section of the last show and read it. It was pretty involved, but it was interesting. And so I was glad for the information. But now it turns out that it looks like there's even more information about this thing. So we got Cinematographer, we got a cast list, and what was the third thing?
Actor out of retirement.
Yeah, that was it. The actor out of retirement. Okay. All right, so those are basically a lot of big updates that we thought, you know what? Let's just go ahead. Let's do a Labor Day weekend show, which we don't usually do, but hey, for you guys, we're willing to do it. So the first thing I want to actually bring up is a cinematographer. Claudio, what's his name?
Miranda.
Yeah. Because given that this thing we know takes place after episode 9.
Mm-hmm.
And
5 years.
5 years, yep. And it's called Star Wars Starfighter. The interesting thing about the cinematographer, of all the stuff, I mean, if you guys look through his resume, he's done a lot of really big movies, and he's done a lot of really critically and audience acclaimed movies. But the two things of note that I want to bring up from his filmography are Top Gun Maverick and F1. Now, I haven't seen F1 yet, but I have heard a lot about it, and I do know about it, and I know that the cinematography in F1, which I think is still in theaters, actually, is just insane. And then, of course, Top Gun Maverick, that was just an amazing movie.
Yeah.
I mean, we were talking about how we were so skeptical, because on one hand, you're glad that there's going to be a sequel. Then on the other hand, you're like, Top Gun is, I mean, it's such a classic, you almost don't want them to mess it up with a sequel. And, of course, I mean, in my opinion, I think it's actually better than the first one. I mean, I was just like, okay, if it's even remotely as good, I'll be happy. But, depending on where some people land with it, where they're like, well, I don't know if it's better. It's just as good, maybe. But, I mean, it surpassed everybody's expectations. And so the fact that this guy is now, looks like he's a cinematographer. It hasn't been officially confirmed, but it looks like he's a cinematographer for the Starfighter project, which, by the way, is the only other movie besides The Mandalorian and Grogu that actually has a release date. It's May, what, 28th? The
28th.
Yep, 2027. And, of course, Mandalorian and Grogu comes out this upcoming May, 2026. It's like the 27th or something. I don't know. So, yeah, there's just a lot. Now, do you want to go over the cast list at all? Because, I mean, I know there's a lot of big names in this thing.
Well, yeah, and before we even go there, I want to touch briefly on the cinematographer, what a cinematography aspect. So, a lot of us. Well, first of all, let me just say this. This I have a sneaky suspicion. I want you to go with me, and maybe this might have come across your mind too. Could this be a replacement for the Rogue Squadron movie we were supposed to get?
I was wondering about that actually. I mean, in fact,
This sounds like
the more that I read about it, takes place after episode 9, is basically
mhm.
like a fighter pilot based, or style movie or whatever. Yeah, I started wondering about that too. Like, ooh, you know what? And that actually makes you
Mhm.
wonder because Sean Levy, I think, is the person directing it,
Yeah.
right?
Yep.
So it makes you wonder, is this thing gonna take elements from Rogue Squadron? Because depending on who you ask, Rogue Squadron is actually I'll say this. Sometimes it's actually threatened that it might still be in development or in production. But it's been more or less taken off of this roster and then put back and then taken off. So I don't know if he
Mhm.
actually borrowed any elements from this. I'm I think it's actually a completely different project, but yes, I do think that this is probably like a surrogate for that movie. That it's basically like, okay, we're a little shaky on this. We don't know about Patty Jenkins, but we still want basically like almost like a Rogue Squadron style movie. So let's get this
Mhm.
guy to do it, and maybe it's a different plot or whatever. But let's just do it this way. So yeah,
I
that occurred to
like.
me.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. So now, granted, I like the name Rogue Squadron a whole lot better than Starfighter.
Yeah,
However,
Starfighter's a little cheesy to me. It's
that
almost
sounds
like the
like,
last Starfighter. Remember that movie from the
oh
early
yeah,
'80s?
it sounds like something that um what was that animated show that I never could finish?
Visions.
um
Oh,
Unfortunately, I did
yeah,
finish
you finished
those.
that one. Resistance.
Resistance. It kind of reminds me like that would fall into that category. I don't know. It just sounds kiddie. Like almost if you were doing a PG or G rate, like if they were making an animated movie or something like that for kids, that sounds like it'd be called Starfighter or something
Yeah,
like
I
that.
mean, or if you think about it,
Rogue Squadron sounds like, because that was the actual
yeah.
name of the group. It just sounds more authentic and more adultish to me. I am happy though that they've gotten someone of the caliber of Claudio Miranda, just because we love the things that he's done with Top Gun, like you said, and F1. I haven't seen the movie F1, but I've seen clips of it. I've seen interviews and things of stuff, like from the movie. So of course they would show the clips and things. I mean, it looks phenomenal. And some of his other things in his filmography are like you said, top notch. So I'm really happy about that. My question for you: we often talk about story and how important that is to Star Wars, but how important is the cinematography, do you think, to Star Wars? Because I don't think anything in the original trilogy, I mean, if you're talking about the original, right, not the special editions. Now, don't get me wrong, cinematography wise, it was revolutionary, sure, like bar none. But I guess like to this day and age, it's kind of antiquated. And even in the special editions, some of the stuff has been cool. But is there a film in the franchise that you can say that the cinematography beat out the story?
Well, I don't know about beating out the story. I mean, first of all, I'll just say a little about the cinematography of the original trilogy and beyond. I mean, it's flawless. I mean, it's actually something that they teach in film school. They'll use the
Hmm.
original trilogy as an example because I don't agree that it's antiquated. The effects, yes, you could say that some of the effects,
The effects. That's what I meant to say.
but they
You're
they
right.
do hold up though better than other ones for their time simply because they were so
Sure.
revolutionary. But again, yeah, no matter how revolutionary an effect is, the fact of the matter is those effects are like 50 years old now. So,
Hmm.
yes, you're going to have, Star Wars actually maintained a cutting edge effects thing for quite some time before it was finally like, all right, well, maybe it's a little bit, but it
But
doesn't
you
take you
know,
out of the movie though. That's good.
to that point though, some of the movies I actually prefer some of the technology and some of the effects of yesteryear as opposed to today,
Oh,
just
sure.
because it doesn't look so cartoony. It doesn't
Right.
look so CG. It looks like this could actually happen.
Well, it's all practical. I mean, I honestly look,
Hmm.
we all have problems with the sequel trilogy. I mean, that's no surprise. But the one thing they did right was they brought back the practical effects.
Yeah.
They lost the whole CGI thing of the prequel trilogy. So from that standpoint, yeah, and I think that you're seeing that in other movies too, actually, where people are starting to bring back the whole practical effect thing just because it's more
Hmm.
tangible. I mean, it feels more
Yeah.
organic. I mean, I hate overusing that word, but in this case, it actually
Grounded, you can always
applies.
use.
Yeah. Now, if you're to get back to your question though, if you're talking about when does the cinematography exceed the story in Star Wars, now I think you
Hmm.
got to start looking at maybe, some of the, well, like certainly the sequel trilogy, because that's one of the things that everybody says, right? Like Star Wars has always been known for its cinematography and
Hmm.
even its effects. It's like, okay, whatever time period it's in, it's going to be on the cutting edge, right? The original trilogy was revolutionary, changed the whole thing as far as even cinematography to a degree, but certainly effects. Then you fast forward to the prequel trilogy that was made, like 10, 15, 20 years later. Again, same thing. A little bit too digital, maybe, but, it was revolutionary for its time. And sequel trilogy, the same thing. So you're always going to see that. But I think that when the story started taking the back seat to maybe some of the effects and the cinematography would probably be in the Disney Plus shows. Your
Mm.
Acolytes, your Ahsokas, even your maybe a little in the Mandalorian, not so much because the story of the Mandalorian was really good. Book of Boba Fett, because that was one of the things that you started seeing when people were criticizing them was they'd say, "Okay, this thing is beautifully shot, but there's nothing there."
Hmm. Gotcha. Yeah, I mean, I think there's some things like I remember like seeing Force Awakens, some of the shots and things that they did in Force Awakens. I think cinematically and wise was done beautifully. I always rant and rave. I think that shot that you have right over your shoulder, that with the
Absolutely, the
sun
Tie
and
Fighter thing,
the TIE fighter thing. I mean, I just thought that was just still gives me like chills, and it's gorgeous to me.
especially the stuff they didn't use. Like remember the Tie Fighter coming up on the
Oh, for Rogue
platform?
One.
Yeah,
Come on, for Rogue
because
One. Yeah, yeah, yeah,
Rogue One's another like
yeah.
really beautifully shot movie. But again,
Beautifully shot.
though,
Yeah, absolutely.
The
But at
Force
least that
Awakens,
went with the story.
yeah, and
Eh,
I mean Rogue One again. I don't think that the story took a backseat to the cinematography on that. The Force Awakens, I mean that's arguably the best of the sequel trilogy. I don't know. I was actually fine with the Force Awakens when it came out.
Me
I
too.
wasn't disappointed. Well, really, with The Last Jedi, I wasn't even initially. I remember when you and I went to see it, we didn't even know what to make of it. We didn't talk for like 5 minutes after walking out.
This never
I mean,
happens.
no, never, never. It was just, it was almost like one of those like uncomfortable situations. Like if you
You're
say
like,
something awkward and now you don't know how to deal with each other or whatever. Or
it's like a weird date.
yeah, yeah, you know. I mean, it was just. It's exactly what it was like. So I mean, I can't even say I was initially disappointed at The Last Jedi. I really didn't know what to make of it. That was my problem with
Yeah,
that
right.
movie.
Yeah, exactly.
And even with The Rise of Skywalker, I mean, I wasn't disappointed because it was so much fun compared to The Last Jedi that it kind of felt like they were
Hmm.
getting back to the spirit of Star Wars a little bit.
Yeah.
But I mean, I would say that especially with that, and even The Last Jedi, the cinematography definitely exceeded the story in both of those cases. Force Awakens, you could probably debate that. I mean, I could see that's one of those things that if somebody wanted to make an argument either way, I I don't even know where I land on that really. I'd have to think about that. But I mean, initially, just talking initially, if somebody presents it, I could go either way on it.
Hmm. Yeah, I think that sometimes um I would even say like, uh maybe even Phantom Menace. Like,
Yeah.
in in a way, Phantom Menace was kind of like that, where the
I
cinema
would
it was
even
some
almost
great
say Attack of the Clones too. I mean, really, if you think about it, Revenge of the Sith is the only universally loved where they go, okay, this is what the prequel should have been the whole time. Too bad they
hmm
waited till the third movie to do it.
right. And George waited to the third quarter. I was like, all right.
But I mean, I think you know why I think that the Phantom Menace is never really mentioned too much in the cinematography thing is because it's all green screen.
Yeah.
I mean, how much cinematography there really? The whole thing is like a big video game.
Right. That and Teletubby Land. Yeah, I
That and
agree.
Teletubby Land, yeah.
So yeah, getting to the cast, right? So we have a cast listing so far. I mean, I don't know if they're going to be adding any more people to this list.
Oh, I'm sure
Um,
they are.
yeah, they probably will. And
It's still
you and I have
early, you
talked.
know.
Yeah, and you and I have talked about. Well, the thing is because they've already started shooting. So my thing is like, well, if you started shooting it already, you kind of have to have that nailed down though,
Well,
because
okay, let me put it this way. I'm not necessarily saying that they're not adding like to the actual movie. I'm talking about announcement
revealing it.
wise. Yeah, revealing it
Okay,
exactly. I mean,
okay,
yeah, I don't
got you.
think they're going to be like
I'm
halfway
about to
through this
say,
thing going, "You know what we really need in this?"
you need Sam Jackson.
Or something like that. Yeah, right, or just, whatever. So yeah, I don't think that the movie's necessarily going to add a cast member to it. I think it's more of a revelation to the rest of the world.
Well, let's see. The full cast for the upcoming feature film from Sean Levy, joining the previous announced Ryan Gosling. The film stars Flynn Gray, Matt Smith, Mia Goth, Aaron Pierre, Simon Bird, Jamel Westman, Daniel Ines, and Amy Adams. Now, there's rumors that Eva Menendez, I believe, is going to also.
Eva Mendes, that's
Yeah, Eva Mendes. I said
and
Menendez.
she's
Yeah.
basically the one that is coming out of retirement. She basically retired in like 2014 or something. I remember when that happened. Now she's Ryan Gosling's girlfriend or maybe wife. I don't know. I never really kept track to see if they were actually finally got married or not. I don't know. But
Hmm.
that's a possibility, and she would be playing his wife in the movie. So yeah, I
That'll
don't
be
know if that's
easy.
been really that hasn't been confirmed yet, has it? Is she a
No,
confirmed cat? Okay, she's not a
it's not a
confirmed,
confirmed. No,
but it's
it's
like a
rumored.
rumor, probably a
Hmm.
strong rumor, like a possibly reliable. Well, I mean, look, it's an interesting cast, and it does again. It's tough to say because when you read the cast of the Phantom Menace, you're thinking this thing is just going to be mind-blowingly good. you know, I mean, if you were
Yeah,
just to go by the cast list alone, you'd be like, this is
yeah,
insane.
yeah. Liam Neeson, Sam Jackson, Ewan McGregor,
Natalie Portman,
and
yeah, all these.
Portman.
I mean, there's just so many.
Then of course our normal, Ian McDermott and uh, well, Ray Park, Ray Park, because I knew from the X-Men movie, so I was just like,
Well,
okay.
actually, a bit of interesting trivia on that one too. What was really funny to me about that was, of course, when you look at the Legend of Sleepy Hollow. with Christina Ricci and Johnny Depp and all that.
And Johnny Depp, yeah.
Ian McDermott and Ray Park were both in that movie too.
Ian McDermott was in there?
Yeah, he played one of the townspeople.
Oh, wow.
And Ray Park was the Headless Horseman.
Headless Horseman. Yeah, I knew he was the Headless Horseman, but I didn't know Ian McDermott.
I remember when that movie came out, because it basically came out, I think it was like right after The Phantom Menace. And I remember thinking to myself, like, wow, the Emperor and Maul, are like technically together in this movie. I mean, it's kind of weird, but yeah. I mean, it was a great movie. And that's the thing. It's like a lot of times you'll look at these cast members. Now, see, in the case of The Legend of Sleepy Hollow, that was an incredible movie. And it, you know, the cast, like Christopher Walken was in that. I mean, there were all kinds of people that were in that movie, and you're like, okay, cool. This is living up to what I would expect. You know, a lot of times when you get these like ensemble casts, sometimes it's one of those, it's almost like super groups in music. You know, sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. Like it's better on paper than in practice.
Same with sports.
That too, right? You know, you cram a bunch of like great athletes from each position, say in football, doesn't mean they're going to gel.
Nope.
So basically in any kind of an entertainment medium, certainly, you can actually have some of the best, but it doesn't mean the chemistry's there. It doesn't mean it's going to make a good product. So, and then of course, you look at the original trilogy. I mean, Harrison Ford kind of had a name. Carrie Fisher was only known because of who her parents were. I mean, you know, it was a bunch of unknowns, really. And look at what happened. So sometimes I don't tend to get too excited, or like I'm never really that influenced by the cast list, especially in Star Wars.
Yeah, and then also like, and as we've talked about before, you know, we've done a couple of shows where we've talked about like how people were put in Star Wars and they were completely useless, right? So that's another thing too, is that
you're right,
you know, you can see this cast list. Yeah, you get this cast list. You're like, oh, this person's in, like, oh, Aaron Pierre, and it's just like, oh, he's the garbage man. Like you show him for 2 seconds and then it's over with. It's like, okay, why did you need to, you know, just because he's a hot actor right now, you know, everybody's like, ooh, Aaron Pierre, and all the women are fawning over him. It's like, okay, yeah, but what is he doing? Like, is he really, you know, delivering in this movie, or is he just there for eye candy for, you know?
Well, but it can have an opposite effect. I'll give you an example. For me, and I think you too, I had no interest in Skeleton Crew until I heard Jude Law.
I was just going to say that. Oh my God. Yes.
You know,
I was just going to bring that up.
That was a case where the actor, or, you know, once the cast was announced and he was part of that cast, I'm like, ooh, let me take a second look at this, because he's not going to do, you know, a bad show. And he's not just a name actor, but he's like one of those guys that carefully selects what he does and everything else. So I'm like, okay, if this project attracted him, now I think it's worth my attention. So
and those kids were just phenomenal.
They were, and I mean that was a surprise, yeah. But again,
absolutely.
You know, going back to one of your earlier points when you said that this whole Star Wars Starfighter totally sounds like some kids themed show, it kind of sounds like maybe a Skeleton Crew-ish type of show.
Sort of, kind of. I mean, because we still really don't know the plot of the show. Or the film, I would keep calling it a show, but it's really a movie.
I know. But well, you know why? Because the title sounds, like you said, it's kind of like Resistance. Actually, Star Wars Starfighter sounds more like what Resistance actually is than Resistance.
Exactly. True. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. So from that standpoint, it's like, okay, I get it. I mean, I didn't really consciously think about that, but when you brought it up, I'm like, oh, wow, he's right. I mean, because, I don't know, the title doesn't really grab me, but it wouldn't be the first time. But then there's other
Right.
times where the title does grab you, and then it's a disappointment, like The Acolyte.
Yep. Exactly. Now, one of the things I've noticed about this particular film is that, you have Sean Levy, he's directing, um, and he's also producing it along
What
with
I'm
Kathleen
trying to
Kennedy.
remember what else he's done. I mean, he's done this. This is embarrassing, but I don't remember. I don't remember the stuff he's done. But I know
um,
I'm a fan of his. I just obviously not a good one. It's like, oh man, he's amazing. He's amazing. Really? What did he do? I don't remember, but trust me.
that
Go
thing.
with me. Star Wars Starfighter.
Right.
And then you just hope nobody questions beyond that. Well, it wouldn't be our show if we didn't do this.
All right. Well, he's done Deadpool and Wolverine. He's done Free Guy, Not at the Museum, Real
Free
Steel.
Guy. Oh, and Real Steel, man. Real Steel was amazing. That was such a good movie with Hugh Jackman. If you guys haven't seen that, you should check that out.
Cheaper by the Dozen.
And I love Free Guy too.
Not at the Museum. This Is Where I Leave You.
Okay, so here's where this guy I think is good for this project, because in a lot of these movies there is like an adventure, some hijinks, but there's heart to it. There's definitely heart and emotion. Like, you even take Free Guy. If you watch the previews to Free Guy, it almost looks like Pixel or, a movie like that. But then when you really watch it and you start to see some of the themes it gets into, I mean, it's actually a lot deeper than what you would think just watching the trailer for it. So, I mean,
and he's done a lot of comedy too. So
yeah, he has.
Kind of, which is cool because now that goes with the Star Wars comedy, right? Because he's done like Pink Panther. He's done
the remakes,
both Pink Panther, both with
Steve Martin.
Steve Martin. But then he's done excuse me, he's done some things like Robin's Wish is about Robin Williams. He's done some horror stuff. He's got
I'm trying to remember what the horror movies
he did. Made in America with Whoopi Goldberg and Ted Danson.
Yeah, so he's been at it a while.
Yeah. So, he's of course Deadpool and Wolverine. So
yeah, well, that was the most recent example, and that was really good. So I mean, I can again, I'm cautiously optimistic whenever anything Star Wars. I hate the fact as a fan that I've gotten to this
we have
point.
to be that way.
Yeah, because it took a long time to whittle that away, right? Because
absolutely.
I was that guy that
I'm right with you, man.
Bad project after bad project. We're like,
hey,
well, all right, but maybe the next one. Now it's kind of like, all right. I mean, but again,
you have to realize it's a habit.
Well, but I mean, I think that at least a lot of the ingredients with this thing are right. They have people. I can't say too much for the cast yet because, like you said, we don't know the plot. But when you're talking the filmmaker and the cinematographer, I think it's the right people for this project.
You got some good ingredients. I would just say we'll say that you have some good ingredients. But see, that's the thing, though. You can start things off with great ingredients, but if you still don't know how to cook,
and here's another one. I mean, I hate to keep torturing these metaphors, but if you're going to talk about it as far as like ingredients of, a dish or something, besides not knowing how to cook, I guess this goes into it. But if you just want to be more specific, you have to have the right ratio of each of those ingredients in order for it to work. Because if you just have too much,
that's knowing how to cook. Yep.
Yeah, if you have too much or too little of anything, it'll be bad, right? So
exactly,
you do have that issue, and that's the problem I think Star Wars has had a lot. I mean, this isn't the first time that they've had all the right ingredients. They've had the right people in place. They have the right writers, the right directors, the right, all that. And yet somehow it still gets messed up. It's like, well, how? I remember you and I used to, back when the Lions were playing really terribly. I mean, we can't say that so much now, but
Right.
back in the day, it was almost like you'd get these guys like, these college football Heisman Trophy winners. You would get, these
Mm-hmm.
guys from like Super Bowl winning
Other
teams,
team.
and as soon as you put them in the
Yep.
Lions, it's like they're
They
playing with
forgot to play
broken
football.
hands. Yeah, I mean, it's like, well, what is going on that when you get these guys here, why? And it's the same thing with Star Wars lately. It's like they'll get all of these great people, and then I don't know, something happens. Maybe it's Kathleen Kennedy's influence.
I think what we need to do is we need to get Kathleen Kennedy out of there, and I think in her place we need to put Dan Campbell. I think we start biting people's kneecaps off at the theater. People start taking Star Wars seriously.
It would be kind of
Um,
hilarious if you did throw Dan Campbell in there and you became this like amazing
Tur-
studio head. Like
oh
nobody
yeah,
knew this was a talent. Is like, wow, we were kind of doing this as a joke or
it was
whatever,
a
but this
joke.
guy's like killing it.
This is the best accident ever. Oh man, that'd
Find
be
out he's like this
priceless.
amazing studio head.
Man, that would be awesome. Absolutely awesome. But
The only
yeah,
otherworldly thing was that Kathleen Kennedy ends up taking the Lions to the Super Bowl.
Oh god.
She'd micromanage it. I mean, she knows how to coach, right?
Oh no, because then all the Lions would be all women.
Yes,
um,
the football is female.
exactly. The Lions are now female.
It'd be the WNBA all over again.
Right. But the thing is that what I've noticed is that Sean Levy, although he's directing and producing, he didn't write it. So that's another thing that I've noticed is that, maybe sometimes when people write and direct, it doesn't go well most of the
Yeah,
time.
but the
Most of the
problem
time
is
for
that
Star Wars.
but here's the thing, and this is why I say you got to be cautious, right? In The Last Jedi, you had Ryan Johnson directing, you had Lawrence Kasdan, the guy that wrote The Empire Strikes Back, writing the script. You'd think that this can't miss, and it missed.
Well, but I
Now, granted, I think
depending
his son,
on
I think Jason Kasdan, I think he had a lot of input on it too. So it probably
not only
wasn't
that, but
purely written by him. And I think Kasdan did actually write The Force Awakens too, if I'm not mistaken. See, nobody here's in the chat to correct us.
I'm not sure about The Force
Well, I'll
Awakens.
look
I
it
think
up.
that was JJ, but see the thing is though with if you want to do the whole Ryan Johnson and Kasdan thing, those two might not work well together. Like that might be one of those teams like we
Obviously.
talked about. Well, yeah, obviously, right? But I mean, just saying, like when it comes to crafting something, like we don't know if Lawrence may have had a better script, and
Yeah.
Ryan Johnson was just like,
So
go ahead.
J.J. Abrams did co-write the screenplay, but it was Lauren Kasdan and Michael Arndt that also co-wrote The Force Awakens.
Okay.
I thought those guys were involved, or at least Kasdan was.
So, because like I said, with Kasdan and JJ, Force Awakens went off fine, but with Ryan Johnson, it seemed to go off the rails, and that's even strengthens my point. Is that maybe those two don't gel well, and that's kind of a thing. It's like, well, if you'd have kept JJ, because that's what happened. When you had with Empire, yeah, you had Kasdan write it, but then Irvin Kershner was a better director though, and those two worked really well together, and so that might have just been like the better. And that's where it kind of goes back to what you were saying about being with bands and sports teams. Is that sometimes even though you're on this super team, so to speak, you don't share the ball well, or you don't share the mic well, and that sometimes can happen. And I think that's something you have to look at and consider when you're looking at a lot of projects. Now, granted, you do have some projects where a person is quote unquote an all-in-one, where they're the director, producer, and writer, and it comes out well. I mean, like, let's look at Andor, prime example. You know, written and directed by the same person, and look how great it came out. So, I mean, you can make an argument, for, but I'm just saying that's a little. I won't say it's a little. That's a aspect that I don't think gets looked at enough. That are the
No,
writer and the
it doesn't.
director
Right.
the what I mean? Like, are the writer and director on the
Well,
same?
you know what?
Literally on the same page.
Yes, but I think that this makes more of a difference in a franchise situation, right? Like it's probably less of a thing if you're just writing. I don't know, like I don't want to characterize it like this, but a standard movie.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't just mean like average or anything like that. I mean just I mean it could be Chinatown, but the point is that it's a normal movie, I mean, okay, granted, The Two Jakes was a sequel, but I mean it's hardly a franchise, right? I mean, I think when you're dealing with, and also I think it's also within the science fiction, fantasy, that kind of realm, because you could say The
Mm-hmm.
Godfather was a franchise, but I don't think that's a franchise that necessarily suffers the same fate as, or I should say, has the same problems or issues related to it that you see in something like, say, the MCU, DCEU, a Harry Potter, Star Wars, that kind of thing.
Mm-hmm.
I think when you're dealing with stuff like that, the writer, the director gelling well. I mean, sure, it's important in any film, but I really think that the right combination, it's not even just about do they gel well, it's about are they the right people for that specific project? And again, I know people could just come back at me and say, well, that's true of anything, right? I mean, are the writer and the
Yeah.
director the right people for, whatever movie that's coming out? But I
Yeah,
think
but I
it's
see your
more
point
so. You
because
see what I'm saying? It's more so
yeah,
important in
oh
these
yeah,
kind of franchises.
because you have especially when you have like trilogies, when you're creating a storyline, right? You have to have people who get the how this thing starts and how this thing has to end, and you kind of have to be together the whole ride. You can't have the beginning and then the middle is out and then the end is good, because then it's going to be disjointed. It's not going to feel. You're going to lose the feeling. You're going to lose some things. So I think that's you're absolutely 100% correct. Is that when you're dealing with a franchise, um, especially when the franchise has a brand within itself, right? Like Fast and Furious, David will love this, of course, is a brand. Like, it has its own thing. It's not like Star Wars. It's not like John Wick. John Wick is another franchise. Like, it has its own thing.
Well, it's
And
a
so if
style,
you don't get
right?
it's a
It's a
yes, the
style.
style. Yeah, there you go. So if you don't have the style and if you don't have the heart of a John Wick, then you don't need, like, just because you did great with Fast and the Furious, because that might just be kin to you. But that doesn't mean you can go do John Wick. That doesn't mean you can go do Ninja Turtles or uh Harry Potter or anything like that. Like, you just have to, just because you were good in one doesn't mean that you're good for the other, and that you necessarily understand it. And not only that, but like how the fans are going to perceive things.
Well, in addition to that, the other thing that makes it even impossible is Star Wars. It's like pretty much a 50-year-old franchise at this point.
Mm-hmm.
Like a John Wick is only like a 10-year or so, you know, 10-year
Right.
old franchise. Whereas like Star Wars is like 50. So I mean, there's just so
Mm-hmm.
many moving parts and things that
Absolutely.
just have to be dialed in.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I mean, and like, even looking at this cast list, I mean, like I said, we don't know what the story is, and we don't know what characters are going to be played. But like I said, I mean, it looks cool so far. I don't see any too many big name characters like that. Well, actors or actresses like that. Like Aaron Pierre is probably like
Ryan
probably one of the
Gosling.
bigger ones. Ryan Gosling, of course, um,
Even Eva
but
Mendes. I mean, granted, she hasn't
well,
been
if
in the
she,
game in a
well,
while,
if it's,
but
well, if
it
that's
was
confirmed, then yes. I'm not even
right. I
including that
mean,
because
yeah,
it's
right.
not confirmed.
Yeah, that's true.
But from the confirmed list, it doesn't seem to be, which I'm okay with. Like, I'm okay with having some type of, sometimes you having a bigger name because then that person may be able to help, you know, mentor other actors or actresses, along.
Well, that's kind of what
So
Alec
they can,
Guinness did in the original trilogy.
right.
Everybody kind of looked up to him
Exactly.
because he was the guy. He was the actor. It's sort of like Donald Pleasance in Halloween, right? I mean,
Yeah.
he's the name guy.
That,
He's where a lot of Halloween's
mhm.
budget went, actually. So, you know,
Right.
but you're pulling in, it's not just a name to sell the film, but that person also invariably, whether directly or indirectly, ends up mentoring all the actors, the
Hmm.
newcomers. And then, of course, they go
Hmm.
on and do the same for others.
Absolutely.
Jude Law's
They
a good
pay it forward.
example of that, going back to Skeleton
Yep.
Crew, right? He's the guy that sort of
Hmm.
anchors it, and I'm sure he was the
Help those
one to,
kids.
yeah, absolutely. Maybe even some of the other
Yeah.
adults, who knows?
Yeah, exactly. So yeah, I mean, I think that's great. I think those are some great things. I honestly feel like I said, going back to our original point that we made, that I think this is a surrogate for Rogue Squadron, because I think, and I really think that that's something cool and there's something needed uh, in Star Wars. I just saw an article, something about like Star Wars doesn't need the Force to be successful. And that's true, but I think you can't make too many projects without it, though,
Yep.
because that's part of what you come for.
Well, it's a
You know,
cornerstone of the franchise.
yeah, it's the foundation of it, really. It's
Pretty much. I mean,
without, yeah, we would have this franchise if it wasn't for the Force.
right. And I mean, I
So
guess it's sort of like you said, right? You can have other projects sprinkled here and there. You can do multiple ones. You just have to go back to the lore a little bit,
mhm.
and then the war. You can alternate the two. But yeah, you
It's just
can't
that,
you can't do too many
yeah,
without it.
yeah, and I think because of the moment you know well, I mean, the moment you lose that, you lose the franchise, and that's what I'm afraid of. I think what they're trying to do right now is, let's get people who can do things without the mystical stuff until we figure out how to properly do that. That's what it feels like to me. Like, okay, let's do what we can do. We got directors who we know who can, do basically a Top Gun. We just put them in space. You can tell. A war story. Just okay, this is a big ball in the sky that can blow up everything at the end. Okay, great. But eventually you're going to have to get back to the Force. You're going to have to get back to, how do we move that piece forward? Because that is, like we just said, it's the cornerstone, it's the foundation of this franchise. And until you find someone who can really do that right and who can really tell those stories, and I mean, you might need to go start looking to people from the Harry Potter franchise and say, hey, I mean, you already in the Disney owns that anyway, so you might as well, hey, give us some of them guys over here who can write and who can tell these stories that can, bail us out of here. But so far, I mean, Starfighter, I mean, it sounds cool. I mean, they're already shooting it. We pretty much have a release date for it. We know when to expect it. Even though I think, who was that? Was that Universal or Ted who was debating about whether that was
Oh, it was
confirmed or not?
Universal.
I was, yeah. So yeah, I mean, everything seems to be pointing to that. So we're just going to go with that for right now.
Well, here's the thing though, and this goes back to one of your points, but I want to stress this is the fact that why I think that the fears that you have definitely has merit is because the successful stuff like Andor, Rogue One,
Mm-hmm.
didn't so much have the Force, and then of course when they did the whole sequel trilogy where it was like just peppered with the Force, it failed. And my fear is that they're blaming having the Force, the Jedi, the Sith, all that in it versus not having them in it. And it's like, no, that wasn't the problem. The problem was you guys just made really bad movies at the end of the day. And it just so happened that the stuff that didn't feature that was well written and well executed, but that doesn't have anything to do with the content that way. So I mean, that's where I think that it's dangerous if they try to go into that realm. Because again, I mean, look, here's another point too. And this is what I would say to anybody that would counter that argument. I mean, nobody's in the chats right now, so I mean, there's nobody here to argue with us about it. But if somebody were to say, well, I don't know, I would say, look, you know what the most talked about scene in Rogue One is? It's Vader.
The Vader scene.
Yeah. Hello, Sith, Force, lightsaber.
He's on there, and he did his thing for like, what, 3 minutes?
Yeah, or something like that. And some of his other stuff, too, like when he was, with Krennic or whatever.
Choking Krennic.
Yeah, and then, of course, which actually sounds like a weird alternative, man, but the thing that's funny... It's like, yeah, choking Krennic. I think they're playing down at the local club or whatever. I know the guitar player. He'll get us in. But
that does. That totally does. I never even thought about that, but it really does.
It's late, everybody. That's why.
That's crazy. You're right.
But the other scene too. Look at Solo. What's the scene that everybody started talking about? Like Maul was on there for like 30 seconds and he lit his lightsaber. Again, I mean, there's still, there's drawing there. The Mandalorian was supposed to be like this Western. We're not going to really feature the Force that much. What's the talk about scene? Luke Skywalker wrecking shop.
That and Baby Yoda.
Yeah. So, for people to sit there and say that, yeah, you don't have to have the Force, you don't have to have the Jedi and the Sith. Yes, that is true for some projects, and certainly they need to do projects where they're not relying on that so much. You don't want that to become a crutch. But to go as far as to say that, yeah, they don't really need that, well, yeah, they really do.
See, to me, that's the expansion. Like when people say, well, we want to see something new, something fresh, I'm not saying that you can't do that within the lore part, because you certainly can. But I think that aspect, that avenue where you can tell stories without the Force is a great way for expansion, because we've talked about it before, how it makes people feel like it's more grounded. It's, not so mystical, and they can kind of get with the whole thing. And like we talked about, political thrillers, horror films, Skeleton Crew with the whole adventure. I mean, you have very little Force in there with Jude Law, but I mean, for the most part, it was forceless. So, but that was a great story. It was fun and funny and cute and all of those things. Without the Force. So I think those are great avenues for fans who are looking to expand Star Wars and who want to, tell different or new stories. Cool. But you still have to be able to tell stories in the freaking thing that made the franchise to begin with. It's like saying we want to tell different stories outside of Fast and Furious. Like you want to talk about the legal aspects of drag racing, but you don't want to talk about cars, or you don't want to see people, speeding around. Like you kind of have to. It's Fast and Furious.
Well, you can't have the Fast and Furious without family.
Yeah.
But I mean, the thing this is why I think that this is romanticized with people. It's because it's new. It's the shiny new toy. You haven't really had Star Wars without the Force, the Jedi, the Sith. It's all over the original trilogy, the prequels, certainly the sequels. So now you have a couple of projects that don't feature can't even say don't feature, because all of those feature the Force at some point. But it's not relying on that. It's not relying on the lore part of it. It's the shiny new toy. It's like, hey, this is something that we haven't seen, so it seems very fresh and new. And in a lot of ways it is, because you do, rightfully so. I mean, it's pointed out by fans of this, you had the war aspect. You know, it's Star
Well,
Wars. So
yeah. And the other part about it too is that, like, I don't think people would have a problem with it if when they did it, it was successful. But that's the problem. It failed. Like, you gave us a whole trilogy and it failed. Then you try to do Acolyte, failed. Obi-Wan barely made it.
well, I think the problem is they need to actually read the lore and find out, you know, what's really going on. Because I think a lot of times, and again, I mean, even Filoni's projects are suffering now. Because as much of a grasp as he may have on Star Wars and everything, and he's kind of like the next in line after Lucas, you know, I think he still needs to learn a lot of stuff. You know, it's almost like he's going to Lucas. When I left you, I was but a learner. Now I am the master, and it's like, yeah, only a master at cheesy, you know,
Animation.
yeah, exactly. It's like, you know, because again, and it's true. I mean, in animation, he does well, and he tells compelling stories, and he has a really good balance of everything. But his live action stuff needs work, and he still doesn't know how to expand a lot of the storytelling in a wider sense. You know, he has his pet characters like Ahsoka because he created her, and a few others, but he has to start to learn a little bit more. You know, so
Yeah.
I don't know.
We'll
It'll
definitely
be
be
an
keeping
interesting
our eye
ride.
on this.
Yeah, we're gonna,
Yeah,
of course.
definitely.
Well, because it does actually, like I said, it's the only other movie that has a release date. But the good news is, you know, we're like a year and a half. Yeah, about a year and a half.
Yeah. Yeah,
Just
about a year and
shy,
a half.
maybe a little bit less, because I mean, you know, like 3 months or
Just
whatever,
accept.
shy of
Well,
2 years, basically. Because
yeah.
this is May like of 27 that it's going to come out. So look, we got to go through the inevitable changes. We have to go through the trailers, the teasers,
The
plot
director being
details.
fired and somebody else being
Yes,
hired.
I'm sure, you know, we're going to, of course, have leaked photos and all that stuff. And that was part of what Universal's saying in the long comments, by the way. Like I said, if you just look at the comments of our last show, Universal has this like crazy long, in-depth thing and talking about how we'll probably see some leaked photos or something now that this thing is in production. I have no doubt. I mean, it's just going to follow suit of any other. We're kind of joking about it right now, but I mean, the fact of the matter is, you know, you have a certain cycle when it comes to Star Wars projects. You know, certain things come out at certain times, and we'll be there for it. We'll be there for all of it. What's the next project that's actually coming up?
You mean this period?
Well, I mean, if there's anything else this year.
Visions.
Oh yeah, wasn't that in like? Actually, isn't that September? Is that coming up soon? Let me see. Yeah, see.
Obviously, I don't know the dates of that because for obvious
Yeah, well,
reasons.
you kind of wish that, you know, it wouldn't happen at all. But I am curious, you know, given what the second season was and how different it was, I am curious on like what direction it's going to go. Okay, so yeah,
Well,
October 29th. October 29th, 2025. Um
well, it's weird because I keep hearing, and this is how they keep getting me because they keep releasing this information and they're making me think that it's like a live action or a real animation thing, and it's really just an episode of Visions, which really irks me. But they'll tease something like, for example, like the latest one I saw was they found a new Han Solo, and I'm thinking like, okay, they're getting somebody else to replace Han's um to replace Harrison Ford, and I'm thinking like it's a live action something like, okay, what happened to oh crap, what is his name?
Alden Ehrenreich?
All right, thank you, Alden Ehrenreich. So I'm like, okay, they stopped using him for whatever reason,
Well, speaking of
and
actually,
it was like,
I just read something today where they asked him, you know, if he was still open to playing on Solo. And he was like, well, yeah, but it's got to be the right project. Like, it has to be the right
Yeah.
thing. So, I mean, I don't know what the deal is. I can tell you this. So, as far as visions go, it'll feature 9 Japanese anime studios. There's going to be sequels in it for The Duel, The Village Bride, and The Ninth Jedi from Volume 1, which is cool because I think those are like the 3 that we ended up liking. 5 new anime studios will join the series, including Anima, David Production, Polygon Pictures, Project Studio Q, and Wit Studio. So, obviously, and unfortunately for you, we will be right there reviewing it for you guys.
Yeah. One of them is called The Scoundrel. So that's the one they were replacing. Supposed to be doing it's basically like a character that's like a Han Solo, but not Han Solo. So it's stuff like that, or they're going to show the Sith Jedi War in one of them, or something like that. So
It'll be interesting. I'm curious on how, because I thought that season 2 was such a huge step up from 1.
It was a lot better.
There's only a couple of clunkers in the whole thing, and I mean, it was really good. But I think part of the reason for that is because it was studios from all over the world. So you got, like different. Like I remember there was that one studio from India, and they gave us that really cool, like Indian culture themed episode. That was really good. So I mean, it's going to be interesting to see what they do now, because it sounds like they're swinging back to more of a Japanese anime thing, which is a traditional anime like what season 1 was. But I just wonder how they're going to handle it in light of season 2. But we'll find that out in October. So yeah, I think that's going to probably wrap it up for tonight or this morning now.
Yes.
Since it's after midnight now. So hopefully, you guys enjoyed the fact that we did actually get an episode out. I wish we could have done it earlier so you guys could have chatted in. But hey, you can always write what you think in the comments. Universal did it. You can do it too.
You can.
Yep.
Yes, you can do it too.
You can do it too. All right. Well, with that, I think we'll wrap it up. We'll see you guys next week at, some point. Hopefully it's 8 o'clock like usual. So, I'm Eric Vansel.
I'm Daryl Sanders.
May the force be with you.
Always.
Head to Head, a Star Wars podcast. Be sure to follow us on Twitter @HeadToHeadSW. Submit your questions for our next show. Visit our official website at headtoheadswpodcast.com. Until next time, may the force be with you, always.